My name's Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And this is a special top performance of the week for the Connecticut high school football in Connecticut. And previously, I had on Ryan Outlaw from Ledyard, who was a running back. Now I have on the quarterback from the Seymour Wildcats of the NVL, Caden Drezek. He's a junior. He's thrown for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. Caden, it's great to be able to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on being selected for your top performance of the week, but also kind of what Seymour has done in their first 2 games. I mean, you handled Wilby pretty well. Torrington, who was coming off a very, very high emotional game against an Iron Division foe in the Naugatuck Greyhounds. And you guys kind of just came in and in a lot of ways, I know the score may kind of look at it in another way, but you guys said, okay, this is our house tonight.
Yeah.
But again, congratulations again. Now as far as obviously we're going to talk about your performance over the past week and what you've been doing thus far this season and such, but I just want to know first and foremost kind of how did you find football?
I've played it ever since I was a little kid, through flag football, Pop Warner, all that. I played baseball and basketball growing up too, but this past couple years, going to high school, I just something about putting the helmet on, being able to run around under lights, just appealed to me more than the other two.
Now you play basketball as well. So are those the only 2 sports that you play for Seymour currently?
Yeah, I used to play baseball, but I stopped in 8th grade.
Any particular reason why you stopped?
I didn't enjoy it. It was too slow paced for me.
So you like kind of the fast pace. Obviously, basketball, there's always something going on. And football, particularly, especially because you play the quarterback position, that's another very you get if you're not mentally in it and you're not physically prepared, it's very difficult to play the position.
Yeah, I like being the person that gets the ball every play.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. Now, obviously, because of the talents that you've been able to show both on the court and on the gridiron, do you attribute any of that to playing baseball and maybe that kind of helping your development on both sides of the sports spectrum?
Obviously, football, throwing. I was a pitcher in baseball, threw the ball hard, but I think that's where my arm came from at least, and the accuracy, but mostly throwing. Yeah.
How about for basketball?
Um, there's not really much that correlates other than being there mentally. In baseball, you go on a slump. It's all about confidence. And basketball, shooting, it's about all 50% mental.
So when did football start to become something where you took it? I don't want to say serious because I felt like many typically do, but when did you start to realize that maybe football was something where, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I should put a little bit more time and effort into that.
It was actually not too long ago. Uh, During quarantine, I grew a few inches. I put on a couple pounds, and I came back that fall last year, and I was throwing the ball way harder. I was more accurate. Everything was better. So I thought to myself, maybe this is the sport for me.
And because of the quarantine, I know a lot of it was very difficult on everybody. It was a lost year for many players, all players, actually, not for many, all of them. It seems like you kind of just from looking at the numbers and the film that I've been able to watch, it seems like you really kind of dedicated yourself to the game of football in a time where many could have either gone away from it or have done other things and kind of lost track of the goal of trying to improve.
Yeah, I had nothing better to do. I was in the gym all all the time, working on my footwork, throws, all that.
Now you said you had nothing better to do. I'm sure there were other things you could have done, but you were like, I need to get better at the game. I got to improve at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it was a priority.
Now, are you somebody that during that time kind of took a step back and either wrote down or thought in your head like, okay, I need to use this time wisely. As you said, I have nothing else better to do. So I need to improve on X, Y, and Z if I want to take that next step as a quarterback.
Yeah, my mom uh told me in the beginning when everything was beginning to get shut down that if I wanted to be good, I would have to take that extra step that none of the other players were doing and work while everyone's out and about doing other things.
Now that's interesting that you said that. And typically, I've heard a lot of athletes that I've had on here when I've asked that question talk about either taking it on themselves or hearing it from somebody else. But that's the first time I've heard somebody mention their mom telling them like, "Hey, you have to do it yourself. You have to take that next step because others may or may not be." Is that somebody that is close in your life?
Yeah, me and my mom are super close. She grew up playing basketball and sports, so she knows what she's talking about. She played college basketball, so she knows how to push me.
Is she somebody that is, I'm assuming every time you run for a first down or throw for a first down or throw, for a touchdown, she's probably one of the loudest people that cheer, right?
Yeah, she sent me a video the other day of me throwing my first touchdown against Wilby, and that was the only thing you could hear was her screaming.
Hey, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. That must have made you laugh and you probably like, oh yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's pretty cool, man. That's nice to hear that. Obviously you always hope you could be close to your parents, but that's good to hear that you're close with your mom and you guys have that relationship. So you were going to Seymour, obviously, your freshman year. Um, what was the what was the goal for you as far as for football? Like, what was the goal that you set for yourself your freshman year?
I wanted to get on the field. It didn't happen, but I was behind a good quarterback. But I was just focusing on getting better and improving my skills.
How difficult was that for you to kind of, it's a tough pill to swallow for any competitive player. I mean, watching you on the basketball court when you guys played against Sacred Heart, even though it didn't go your way, you guys stayed competitive until the end. And I saw that. And I mentioned that many times on the air. Uh, how difficult was that for you to kind of have to sit back and just buy your time, not knowing that obviously COVID was going to affect your sophomore year, but to kind of like just sit there and wait and just see the success that they were having and you're like, I want to be out there, I want to be a part of that, I want to help.
It was hard, but I took it as an opportunity to learn. Someone who's had experience like Kevin. Being behind him, I knew he taught me footwork, reads, everything.
You talk about the footwork and the reads, and Kevin was one of the most talented quarterbacks that I could remember since I started broadcasting with ATR a couple of years ago. I'll never forget against Naugatuck the quarterback zone, right basically right behind the center and right in for the touchdown. It was the game-winning touchdown. I'm pretty sure it was in overtime too. It was
Hmm.
designed cornerback run, and that was an exciting game. I mean, did you kind of ask him either after that game or maybe even after the season, like how did you deal with that intensity so you could try to bring that into your game?
I didn't get the chance to ever ask him, but that was a really good game.
Is there anything that we talked about your freshman year and such, and you having to sit behind Kevin Harmeling. Uh, was there anything in particular that you felt like you were able to improve on that, at least at the time, that you thought going into your sophomore year that you could showcase to the coaches and such?
Uh, my arm strength was a big thing that I need to improve on. My freshman year, I wasn't the best, and my speed, I had to work very, very hard to bring down that 40 time.
And the speed aspect, is that because that's just something you wanted to work on, or is that because you, realize that the game and with offenses with between the RPOs, read options, and just because of the way defenses are, they're fast now. Defensive ends, linebackers, they're having much more of a role. They're super athletic. They're hyper athletic. Was that something that you were? I don't know if you were kind of concerned about that, but why the intents to try to be able to increase your speed?
Um, Obviously, I wanted to do it for myself just to become a better player overall, but the game is shifting to a faster pace and dual threat quarterbacks are the thing now. But also, I watched Kevin run all over teams all year and see how successful he was, and I wanted to add that to my bag.
Now, before going into this year, if you were to basically write a scouting report about yourself and be honest, what would the scouting report have been on Caden Drezek?
Um, I have a good arm. I could read defense well. I could put the ball where it needs to be, but still the speed. I'm not as bad as I was my freshman year and my sophomore year, but that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses.
And now, speaking of weaknesses, a question that, and I noticed this last week, and I don't know if you have any friends who talked about the Ansonia Holy Cross game because that was a very big game. I
Mhm.
called that game last week, and the one thing I noticed about Kapritsky from Holy Cross, and there was a lot of pressure he was dealing with against Ansonia. But one thing too that I noticed that when the play started to break down, it seemed like he started to struggle. If the read wasn't open, if the first guy wasn't open, he had to kind of ad lib. And that's not something that, at least for that one game, looked to have been his strength. Maybe he'll get that over time. I know he's a hard worker. Is that something that you have also tried to work on as well? Because as a quarterback, look at Kyler Murray, look at Dak Prescott. When plays are not fully on script, you got to ad lib. Is that something that you try to work on as well?
Yeah, pocket presence is a big thing me and my coaches have been working on, and what to do when the play breaks down. So I've been trying to get better at it. I think I'm fairly good at it, but it's a big thing.
How have you tried to work? I know it's a very difficult question to ask, so I'm not expecting obviously an A answer. But how have you worked on ad libbing? Because it's difficult to work on it during practice because there's only so much time, and during a day, a practice you only have 2 hours give or take, and then you have so many things as far as preparing between the stretching. You have to the work on the game plan for the for the week's game that you have coming up. So what do you do to work on that?
Um, just drills like pocket presence, finding the open receiver, getting out of the pocket, things like that.
Have you been able to utilize any of the ad libbing in your first two games? I know Wilby was a little bit difficult because the game was out of hand pretty quickly, but and Torrington as well. I mean, the score was pretty up there before half, but was there any point during those two games where you were able to use your ad libbing skills to try to see like, okay, this is how if a play starts to break down, this is how I can kind of evaluate myself and see if I can work on a few things.
Yeah, actually, against Wilby, the DNs crashed in. I got flushed out, and I made a nice pass cross body to Sean Foster for a touchdown. It was like a 35 yarder.
And after that game, between Wilby and Torrington, even though the scores did not, you know, they weren't as close as maybe some people would have liked because you obviously want to see a competitive game. Were you able to kind of take anything from both of those games, man, and be able to utilize that as a growing experience and a learning tool in any way?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I saw I need to improve on, like getting the offense on the ball, um, realizing when a blitz comes that there's gonna be open spot, or just reading the pressure, things like that.
Now, going into obviously this game coming up on Friday against Watertown, it's a copper versus iron matchup. Is there anything that you're looking forward to going up against Watertown? Because typically they are a pretty fundamentally sound team. And even maybe when they don't have the best overall like talent, they seem to always be in competitive games from the beginning of kickoff until the clock is on four straight zeros.
I'm just excited to have a competitive game. Obviously, you can't take them lightly at all. Last time we played them, we took them lightly. We got blown out 35-0. So they know what they're doing. We have to get a good week of practice in and come out on Friday and blow them off the ball.
Caden, I really do appreciate you coming on. I do have one more question for you, really quick. As far as what you've been able to do this season, and it's very impressive, and I'll be interested to see how you do throughout the remainder of the season. Now, we do have Seymour on the radio broadcast a couple times. I know we have, I think, Seymour and Holy Cross, and then we have Seymour Woodland, which is close to about Thanksgiving time. So it's going to be very intriguing to see where you guys are, especially because I looked at your schedule and you have Ansonia, Holy Cross, Woodland, probably three of the most competitive games that you will have. That's just my opinion. Um, where do you see either stats wise or just overall in team aspect? Where do you see the Seymour Wildcats going into those big matchups against Ansonia, Holy Cross, and Woodland?
Honestly, I haven't thought that far ahead right now. I'm just taking it week by week, but those should be three very tough games, very competitive.
Okay, so for yourself then, as far as going into Watertown, what is your game plan? What do you want to do as the quarterback to be able to help the Wildcats win on Friday?
Just be on target, uh, make all the right reads, have no turnovers, and just lead the team.
Is there anybody in particular before we finish this interview that you want to give credit to either on the team or the staff or anybody like that for the success that you've had thus far through the first 2 weeks of the season for the Seymour Wildcats?
Yeah, the coaches have done a great job game planning for both teams that we played and all the teams coming up. Our line has done a tremendous job. I haven't been touched once, I don't think. And running back Caleb, he's been able to spread the field out, so it gives me more opportunities to throw. Defense won't know what's coming, and all my receivers have done a great job.
Is there anybody in particular, man, that is maybe not getting mentioned as much as he should have or could be just because of maybe the numbers are not there or for whatever reason he's just not being mentioned? Is there anybody that you think that you could mention that deserves a little bit more credit?
Yeah, I think Rob Bernor, our left tackle, he's grown tremendously since the beginning of the offseason to now. He's put in a lot of work. He's done a great job. He's taken on two of the biggest people I think we're going to face, and he did a great job with it. I didn't have any problems, and I don't feel like he gets any credit.
That's smart that you picked the left tackle your blind side. That's a smart man. That's a smart man. You always got to make the left tackle happy, especially as a right-handed quarterback, right?
I'm a lefty, actually.
Oh, you're a lefty. See, I didn't even know that. So okay. So the right tackle will okay. So it's the quarterback in front of you, but still you got to be good to the offensive lineman now.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea you were a lefty. Did not know that. I'll have to keep that in mind and write that in my notes. But Caden, I really do appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun to be able to have you on. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck the rest of the way. I look forward to being able to see you during this season against Holy Cross and Woodland on the broadcast schedule.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time.
No problem. I'll wrap things up in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.